Welcome back to another exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV. I'm your host, Gary Malefsky, and the publisher of Cyber Defense Magazine. Now, I have a very special guest sitting in my hot seat. Brian Contos is the CISO,
Correct.
of Verodin, which is Veridon.com, and I think it means something really cool. Couple names. Brian, welcome and tell us.
Yeah, so Gary, when we put the name Verodin together, we said, why don't we try to join two things? So Veritas, if you will, and Odin, God, which essentially means the God of truth, if you will. And it kind of plays nicely into our mission here at Verodin, which is trying to prove the effectiveness of your security controls.
Now, I spent many years helping Mitre get the word out on the CVE program, Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures.
Yeah.
They've launched something called Attack, correct? I don't even know if it's spelled right. There might be an ampersand sign in there.
Yep.
I always trick people.
Yeah.
What is that, and how do you use it and leverage it in Verodin, and how do you deploy it for your customers?
Yeah, so Mitre Attack, ATT, ampersand, CK, relatively new Mitre framework that's getting really rapid adoption. Similar to other frameworks such as NIST, they have some of theirs. You'll see some things from OWASP and SANS. What's really cool about Mitre Attack is it focuses on endpoint and sort of what happens after compromise if your security controls did not prevent that attack from occurring.
Well, that's a bad thing. If my security controls fail, I'm in trouble.
And now I want to know what else is going to happen in my environment when that happens, right?
Exactly.
So how far is it going to get? So one of the ways that we work with that at Verodin is we're like, well, let's go ahead and validate that the security controls you have in place, whether it's network or email or cloud or endpoint, are actually doing what they're supposed to do. And let's measure that effectiveness against what happens during some Mitre attack assessments when you're leveraging that framework to see if something got through and my endpoint security control didn't stop it, what else is going to happen in my environment? What other problems could I possibly have?
Are you doing this by eavesdropping? You're not inline, you're providing some dashboard or system, or is it VM or an appliance and you're plugging into a tap port? How do you pull this off?
Yeah, so we wanted to take sort of not just new, but a different approach to how people were measuring these types of things. Our product is broken into two pieces. The first one's the director. And the Verodin SIP Director, Security Instrumentation Platform Director, is a security effectiveness brain, if you will. It's where you do automation and reporting. It's where you run these tests, etc. Now, it integrates with two areas. The first one's your security management stack. Your SIMs, your firewall managers, your endpoint managers, your IPS managers, etc. Not the actual security devices, but the devices that manage those devices. The second thing it integrates with are the Verodin SIP actors. Now, actors are sensors that you deploy throughout your environment. They can be email-based, cloud-based, network-based, and these actors, these sensors, will attack each other. And in doing so, they're measuring the efficacy of the security controls to which they pass. So for example, I'm gonna run an attack between my DMZ zone and my critical server zone. And when I'm doing that, even though I'm only attacking myself, I wanna see, did my firewall block it? Did my IPS detect it? Did my SIM get that data? And if I got it, did it create a correlated event? The same thing would apply on the endpoint side. Can I edit my host file? Can I shut off the local firewall? Can I steal credentials? Can I execute malware? And it's all done in our approach in a very safe, controlled way. So you can run real attacks, run real malware with zero risk and 100% safety.
Zero risk, so it's simulated?
It's not simulated. Here's the great part. You're running real attacks safely in your production environment, but because it's actor to actor, there's no risk of it actually impacting your network, your endpoint systems, etc. So it's a really, really unique approach to this and something that we've been working on for a long time. And because of that, Verodin SIP today is running in the biggest financial services networks, oil and gas, government organizations where availability is there with a capital A. You absolutely positively can't take these systems down.
You must make red teams and blue teams very happy.
One of my favorite things, and Verodin is made up of a ton of folks with a red teaming background. And it used to be red teamers would come in and they'd run an assessment and I broke into the system and I put a file on there that said I was here, or I pulled something out to show proof or evidence, and I felt real good. Then I came in the next year to do the same assessment. All I have to do is change the data on the report because the blue team really never got around to fixing it. There was not a lot of communication there. Now with our solution, what we're seeing is a red team can leverage this as part of their process. And now they're being measured on their ability not to break in, but their ability to actually improve the effectiveness of the blue team. And they're working cooperatively to actually address the issues. So this whole purple teaming idea. Because what Verodin SIP does is first it's going to identify the gaps. I'm not blocking here, I'm not detecting here, I'm not correlating there, etc. Then it's going to prescriptively tell you, these are the things that you have to do to address those problems. Then once you address those problems, you apply configuration assurance to make sure that thing I did is actually doing what I want. Now you've got it to a known good baseline. And you say, I want to automate this process in perpetuity. I'm going to run 1,000 or 10,000 tests, whatever the case might be, every single day to make sure that what was working yesterday is working today. It's going to be working tomorrow. Now that cooperation now between the red team and the blue team means you can really start moving forward, and security starts being more strategic and much more business-centric, if you will, than just the traditional bits and bytes.
Now you're in my hot seat, so I'm always looking to stump the guest.
Yeah.
Have you heard of FAIR or FAIR Institute?
I have not.
Okay, I finally did it. It's taken me all day. So one of the problems that CISOs have is they really don't understand and don't want to see the logs, right? I mean, you probably do understand them, but you don't want it. You just, guys, is it red? Is it yellow? Is it green?
Yeah.
And so how do we measure risk in a way that how do you quantify risk for your business? And what's the business impact of risk based on these network security issues?
Yeah.
So they just started FAIR Institute. I think they're in their second year, saying, let's put a plan in place. Let's come up with a standard. So kind of like the FICO score of your network.
Yeah.
If you could tie in this attack with what you do with FAIR, I think we're going to see the most amazing solution in the world.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's a very interesting point, actually, and we'll look into that for sure. What we're finding, and this doesn't matter if you're a mid-sized company, a Fortune 500 government agency, the amount of money that you put in security and the amount of time and resources that you put in security doesn't necessarily equal security effectiveness. And the reason why is primarily we're basing our security effectiveness on assumptions. I assume that what that vendor claimed is true. I assume when I deployed it, that's actually doing what I want, and perhaps that default configuration is the best. Further, I assume that a year down the road that thing that was working is still working, and the people and processes that integrate with it are actually effective. And we know assumptions don't work. We don't want to do it that way, but we've never had a way before the Verodin Security Instrumentation Platform to mitigate that issue. Well, now we do. Now we have a way, instead of being assumption-based security, we can be evidence-based security. And again, the way we do this is, let's validate the effectiveness of your controls. Let's help you prescriptively tune, and then let's go ahead and do configuration assurance to make sure your tuning actually works. But this is where it goes to that CISO level. Now I can rationalize. Now I actually know, where do I need to invest? Where do I need to prioritize?
I need a better response team, or I need a better firewall because, or maybe we should have bought an app layer firewall. We were looking at ports and there were things happening at the app layer that we discovered is off.
Yeah, or maybe this proxy server that we've had for 4 years, I don't need to renew it. I don't need to pay maintenance because it's not providing any extra value. I can take that extra money now and invest it in people or tools that I actually need. So now I have evidence of what's actually working, what's not, where to invest. I become much, much more strategic. You know, CISOs have been asking to have a voice with the executive team and the board for decades. Well, now we do. It's like, oh my God, what did I ask for? And you know, executives and the board, they don't want to talk bits and bytes, Bad Rabbit and WannaCry and things like that. What they want to know is, how is security helping my business? Because for them, it's not about cyber risk. It's about the operational, the brand, and the financial risk from cyber.
Exactly.
Cyber is just one of 50,000 other types of risks they have to deal with every day. So if you can talk to them with quantitative metrics, not qualitative, based on evidence about what's working, what's not, how it's helping the business mission, that's what they care about. And they need it today more than ever because cyber is mentioned in their 10K and annual reports, their corporate governance documents. They're going on TV.
Buying their cyber insurance policy.
Exactly.
Right? And maybe they paid too much after a breach and they could come up for the next time with leveraging your platform a better model.
Absolutely. Or think about this, renegotiating with their vendors. Hey, I paid X for your product, but we're finding it's really only about 30% effective, you know, based on our tests and analysis. Maybe we need to renegotiate the terms of this. Or maybe the product that I'm POCing now, it's outperforming what your product does. And I think it's time for us to replace it with this new vendor. So it's really, really great for just getting to the hard facts, what's working, what's not for my environment. And the best product for you might not be the best product for me. based on your use cases and how things are organized within your organization.
And our viewers and our listeners to get more information about your company and your technology.
Yeah, so please go to our website, Verodin.com. That's Verodin.com. We've got great videos there. We've got a podcast series. We've got articles. And best of all, we've got customers' testimonials, which are so hard to get in the security space. But we've got real Verodin customers talking about how they've solved real problems and it's helped them improve their security effectiveness.
That's awesome. You made it through the hot seat. I really enjoyed this interview. I learned a lot from you today.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. So folks, you heard it here. Go to Verodin.com. You're going to have an amazing solution deployed in a couple weeks or less.
A couple weeks or less.
And this is probably one of the most critical aspects of your investment in cybersecurity. What's working? What's not? How can we reinvest or tweak and tune? Maybe even save some money after you've deployed Verodin. And then come back next time for an exciting episode of Cyber Defense TV.